Hello and welcome to the latest instalment from the World Touring Car Championships here on 4. My name is Simon Potter and I'll be guiding you through all the action. After the last 2 rounds in Mexico, the WTCC returns to Europe for rounds 11 and 12 and the famous track at Priaulx in Belgium. The track at Spa is also used by Formula 1 and is 4.5 miles long. The WTCC drivers will be doing 8 laps per round. Here's the way the Drivers Championship stands after 10 rounds. BMW's German driver Dirk Müller leads the way, but he's only 2 points ahead of Fabrizio Giovanardi and only 5 ahead of Englishman Andy Priaulx. In the manufacturers' standings, BMW and Alfa Romeo are dead level, with Seat in 3rd and Chevrolet 4th. Let's see how qualifying for round 11 went with commentator Martin Haven.
All eyes at Spa on the skies. It's always a worry what the weather is going to do. Qualifying at running in dry conditions, and that meant fast lap times for the drivers with best chassis grip and with most power. And the Brazilian Augusto Farfus claiming his first pole position of the season, claiming it in the dying moments of the session. Now here's the Alfa driver with the least success ballast, just 20 kilos on board above and beyond the normal weight of his Alfa Romeo. Well, he was joined in leapfrogging the front row starters by Andy Priaulx, the BMW Team UK driver, the reigning European Touring Car Champion, just 0.278 behind as he crossed the line. Great pictures from the helmet cam in Priaulx's car. He's got a 40 kilo weight handicap, picked up a good tow, courtesy of Seat driver Jason Plato. Well, the drivers that were deposed from the front row were the Schnitzer twins, Jürg and Dirk Müller, no relation. Charlie Lamb's boys had set their times very early on, just doing 2 laps on the track to set the qualifying time right at the beginning of the session and sitting back and waiting for the weather or someone else to intervene. Gabriele Tarquini, though, pushing very hard indeed and going off into the gravel, not as badly as fellow Italian Alex Zanardi had, though, in free practice before untimed sessions began. He barrel rolled his BMW and would take no further part in the weekend. Newcomer, though, in the form of the brand new Peugeot 407, Sohail Yari of France, taking an engine change, starting 26th on the grid instead of his 24th qualifying spot. Top 8 all within a second of each other. Hori Hene, the best Seat driver on the grid. Jason Plato, Rickard Rydell, Peter Terting, all hovering around the top 10 as well. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin. Augusto Farfus holds it on the brakes on the downhill start here. The traditional start, only Formula 1 cars start on the level with a hairpin in front of them. Everybody else has to measure their pace at the start and rush headlong into Eau Rouge. The field is almost completely in place. The Fords and the Peugeot arrive at the back of the grid. The revs rise. We're ready for round 11 of the World Touring Car Championship for Spa-Francorchamps. The red lights are on. Watch for the BMWs, away they go. Andy Priaulx, Dirk Müller, Jürg Müller, all going to try and pass Augusto Farfus into Eau Rouge. Priaulx will get the lead for the 8 laps of Spa-Francorchamps that stand between him and perhaps victory in round 11. But already the Seat facing backwards and going off. That is Rickard Rydell, pushed sideways, but just avoiding the barriers from his 9th starting position. Priaulx leads them up the hill, but Farfus tucked in behind, and that's a very big hole in the air that Priaulx is giving. Dirk Müller out wide, trying to come around the outside of the Brazilian, can't do it. Farfus was resolute in pushing rivals off onto the grass up the hill last year, and he is defensive of his 2nd position. Priaulx's got the break he wants, David Leslie. Farfus, if he defends against Dirk and Jürg Müller, is just giving the race to Andy Priaulx.
Yeah, he is, but the Alfa Romeo there is coming up. Another Alfa Romeo, that looks like Tarquini, now up into 4th place. And that was the incident. That looks like Genet.
That is a Ford Focus upside down at Les Combes. That is either Klenker, that in fact is not Sascha Plördl. That is Plördl. That is Sascha Plördl in his ST170. No, it can't be. So 6 upside down, that's Funke. Yes, the 16 car, not the 26 car. Michel Funke. So safety car is out. They shouldn't have to red flag it. There's 4.5 miles of this track, but the Chevy safety car is on its way out, and they will be picked up further round the lap as well. And that, as you see, David, the Alphas are getting up there. Oh, and into the barriers. He went running out very wide at Les Combes. I've never seen anybody roll so dramatically there. He just climbed the barriers on the outside.
Yeah, he just got himself onto the outside. I think it was everyone was trying to push and pull for their own position going through that chicane there, which they always do, and he just simply got himself onto the grass. Once on the grass, he didn't have the steering. He just into the barrier on the outside, and that was the end of it. Downhill start here we see now the BMWs didn't have such a big advantage because of the downhill start. It did help the front wheel drive cars rolling down that hill. One of the Chevrolets make a very bad start there, got something wrong towards the back there, but only one BMW got there. But as they come up to the top of there, we see further back the BMWs coming past the front wheel drive cars further back. But when we get to the top here, we did see a Seat spinning around. I think that was Jordi Genet. There it goes, and that looks like the first of the Seats. That would have been Jordi Genet, and he seemed to spin and get going again. So off the start line here from inside Farfus's car, you can see Priaulx just get that there, and away he goes. And
now Genet was the best place, but and it does look like Genet, definitely. And Roberto Colciago, the man who was on for, yes, nearly 3 Seats being wiped out there as Pluto and Rydell got alongside Genet. That's why Rydell was coming on so slowly, because he basically had to come to a halt to avoid his teammate. Roberto Colciago, the man who was stuck up the back of the Genet Seat there, but I'm not sure that it was him that actually did the rubbing. And there, the replay of Michel Funke. Well, the Fords all at sea in terms of performance, over 5 seconds slower than pole. But the car, well, I'm not sure that'll be in race 12. Ready to go green again. Andy Priaulx leads the single file charge down the hill. Augusto Farfus second, Jörg Müller third, Tarquini fourth, Dirk Müller fifth, Thompson sixth, Rosenblad seventh, Coronel Independent eighth, Garcia ninth, Giovanardi 10th, Terting, Plato, best of the Seats 11th and 12th, and up the hill they come. BMWs again trying to out-drag their Alfa Romeo rivals. Look at that, that's absolutely synchronous. Red and white and red and white and red and white down the hill, and they have all got by, or have they? Dirk has. Can Jörg slot in as well? Yes, they get through. It is now Priaulx, Dirk Müller ahead of Augusto Farfus, then Farfus, Dirk Müller, Tarquini and Thompson. But Dirk's having a bit of a Jörg's having a bit of a tough time of it. Tomo trying to come back around the outside of him. He got by originally, but couldn't get the job done. So there are 2 Alphas in front, separating the Schnitzer drivers. And now, look, behind Carl Rosenblad is Antonio Garcia's got past the other independent, Tom Coronel. And Giovanardi's on the charge as well, further back. Giovanardi 10th at the line, looking to come by Coronel for 9th as we ride on board. Farfus in 3rd, all over the back of Dirk Müller. Farfus really has to keep his nose clean here. He came under such heavy criticism, not least from us last year, for some fairly shocking driving, just running drivers all over the grass in defence. Now, though, he's very much on the attack, and this is slightly different from last year, where the BMWs were the ones who were attacking the Alphas, as we've seen so often here. Now, clearly, David, the horsepower advantage that Alfa have enjoyed over recent seasons is very much non-existent at Spa.
No, you can see that the way they came up out of Eau Rouge onto the straight, the BMWs were able to come out of that corner with a little bit more pace, pull up beside and actually drive past the Alfa Romeos up the straight. And that's a big change to when this championship first started 3 or 4 years ago, when the Alfa Romeos were all dominant in the power stakes. BMWs have worked very hard since then to sort that out, and you can see that that very much has worked for them. But they are being pushed hard, very hard indeed. Andrew Priaulx allowing himself being out in front. No real hassle there, but behind Dirk Müller has got Augusto Farfus all over the back of him. And as we said before, Augusto Farfus has not been the cleanest of drivers last year, not even this year. He got himself into trouble again this year, especially at Imola when he took out Zanardi on the last lap, and he's been under the watchful eye of the stewards ever since, and I think I understand he's still under their watchful eye. But as they came out today, you can see the BMWs that little bit quicker up through Eau Rouge, and that's where they can pull away a little bit, and Alfa Romeos were left wondering what's going on. And the wiper blade on, which looks like Tarquini's car, has flicked up. Now I don't know what's happened there. All of a sudden that wiper blade is way up in the air, and the air should not have been allowed to get underneath that. That'll just be a distraction for him as he's sitting right behind it.
Yeah, I noticed actually as they came over the brow at Eau Rouge just how much Dirk Muller's car jumped across the road, but he just kept his foot buried and got away from Farfus as a result. As you say, the BMWs perhaps with slightly better balance through there, and that's so critical. We talked about it in this morning's warm-up. You've got to have horsepower here, but you have got to have a chassis that you're 100% confident in, because you just can't plant it otherwise, and this circuit needs commitment in spades, and that's what Dirk gave it through Eau Rouge. He's now closed the gap a little bit. Jörg Müller coming down the hill behind Tarquini. That wiper blade right up vertical in front of Gabriele Tarquini won't be helping his visibility, but he'll be focusing beyond that. Dirk Müller has eased away from Farfus towards Priaulx, and Jörg Müller trying to work his way through the red wedge. Then Antonio Garcia, Tom Coronel, or is that Coronel, or is that one of the factory cars? I think that's now the factory cars, factory sets of Giovanardi. And is that Peter Turtin getting by Tom Coronel? Hard to tell. The GR Asia cars almost look identical to the current Seat colour scheme as well, but certainly Garcia and Giovanardi were trying to work their way past Coronel and Rosenblad. We'll know in a minute or two when they get to the end of the lap, but timing and scoring does take its fair old time to reset itself, as it only does it once a lap here. Augusto Farfus staying in touch with the two BMWs out front. And it is gratifying to see that although none of the other manufacturers can match BMW and Alfa Romeo in terms of horsepower at the moment, each are having to use aerodynamic tows to get by the other. Charlie Lamb closest to the camera, the Schnitzer team boss. And when you need to use the aerodynamic tow to get past another car, but can do so, you know that the power is very closely balanced. Watch here over the curbs, Muller's car sliding and bouncing, but it seems to pick up ground even as it does so. Again, closing on Priaulx enough to get the tow, but he's had to use it very early, David. He's had to come out a long way early, almost giving Andy time to pick up a tow from him and fight back. But the lead goes to Dirk Müller. Priaulx slots into second, and Farfus will have picked up the tow from Andy and be right behind them.
Yes, it's just so close at the front with all these works BMWs and Alfa Romeos, and they really are going hammer and tongs at it. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars side by side here, with James Thompson just bringing up the rear with the other Alfa Romeo. But you can see the BMWs just not giving up, fighting all the time with these Alfa Romeos.
View from Augusto Farfus, Dirk Müller on the outside line, Priaulx the defensive inside line, just couldn't hold his line far enough, and Dirk Müller got the move done early enough. It all happens in slightly slow motion, even though they're doing better of 145 miles an hour up that long climb. It must feel like it takes forever for a driver when your rival is gradually inching alongside you as well. Farfus, Tarquini, Jörg Müller had a little look out of Malmedy down the hill into Beau Rivage, or Bruxelles as it's now called, for reasons best known to the organisers. On board with Andy Priaulx, still pouring on the power, still flying downhill. Priaulx and Fagnes, we've been now through Stavelot, and we're starting the climb once more. You start dropping down from Malmedy all the way downhill to Stavelot, and then back up this high-speed section, climbing up through Blanchimont, where the Formula 1 cars in a week or two's time will be doing upper of 190 miles an hour. Müller and Priaulx using all the green painted concrete as they wildly scrabble around into the bus stop. Now much wider, it's a real proper 2 turns there instead of a flick-flack over the curbs, but still no advantage taken by either man. Farfus from 3rd place, he's got Tarquini and Jörg Müller behind, but Dirk Müller out front, and there's a Chevy in the pits, and I'm not sure, that's Robert Huff has come into the pits already. I'm not sure whether that was Huff we saw or one of the other Chevy Lacettis.
I think it'll be Rob Hoff, and I think he had a problem straight off the start line. We've seen one of the cars going to the back, and we think that he probably broke a drive shaft or something, and he's found his way back into the pit so they can get it fixed, ready for the second race.
So after 5 laps of round 11, it's Dirk Müller leading from Andy Priaulx. Can Andy maintain the pressure and grab first before the finish? Find out after the break. Welcome back to the World Touring Car Championship here on 4. 2 laps to go in round 11 here in Belgium. Let's get back to the action.
Dirk Müller and Andy Priaulx starting to squeeze away a tiny bit from Farfus, and Jörg Müller desperate to give chase and join in, because once he gets into this battle, David, it could be any one of the 3 that wins the race.
Yes, he's just so close at the front. You never know who's going to come out on top of this, and you won't know until they cross the line. And you can see these 2 here with Andy chasing Dirk as hard as he can. They're trying to stretch away these 2 from the rest of them. They've got themselves a small gap now because of the Alfa Romeos, and Jörg have been fighting away for that 3rd place, and in doing that has given the first 2 just a little bit of space. But you can see Tarquini now, he's got his headlights on, he's trying to harrow the back of Jörg's car there to say, you know, I'm here, let me past, I want to be up there as well. And watching a careful eye behind all of them is James Thompson, and his car just hanging in the back of there. He's got a little bit of weight on his car. Thompson's carrying 25 kilos, but most of these guys have got some sort of success ballast on board. All the top guys are carrying ballast of some description, anything from 40 kilos down to about 10 kilos on this first group of 5 cars.
Just look at them, absolutely as one, Dirk Müller and Andy Priaulx. And I tell you what, afterwards they will both have really enjoyed this race, but at the moment the pure adrenaline pumping aggression and frustration of being in ostensibly absolutely identical cars around this circuit. Andy just dropping back a length there through the bus stop as Dirk got a little better traction, better control on the way, and Jörg around the outside of Farfus, cuts back to the inside, too close, oh, and almost turned around as he gets hit by Tarquini, and that will cost him a position. Now he's inside Gabriele Tarquini down the hill, and he will want to keep that position into Eau Rouge. And I've only ever seen a side-by-side move once into Eau Rouge. It was in 956s many years ago, and it was a very, very untidy ending for Stefan Bellof when he tried to pass Jackie Ickx down the inside there, and it doesn't often go well in big cars. Luckily, they have just about managed to make it through.
Yeah, what happened there was Jörg tried to go wide and tuck down the inside of Farfus to try and come out the inside. But in slowing down to do that, Tarquini was right there, and he caught the back of him. And here we see he has gone round the outside. He's going to try and take a wide turn in, nip in the inside. But as he tried to do that, Tarquini just caught the rear bumper and pulled it across and slowed him down enough for Tarquini to get beside him. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to hang on to it. And there we see Jörg is still in 4th place, still harrowing the back of Farfus. And Farfus must be fearing for this, knowing that what he's done to so many drivers over the last 18 months in the way of accident damage. He must be hanging on there thinking, I need to keep it tidy, I need to keep it clean, not knowing whether he's going to be attacked from behind or not.
Well, obviously at the hairpin there, Tarquini trying to shoot around the outside of Dirk Müller, and again the fractional misjudgment of Müller hitting back at the back of Farfus slowed Müller down rather more than Tarquini was expecting, and that was a chain reaction. I can't imagine the stewards would find anything at all to penalise there. You've got some fantastic racing going on here. This is about the closest battling we've seen all season long. Really close, very professional racing, and at the moment Augusto Farfus is being just as clean and fair as all the others. No weaving, no easing drivers onto the grass at 150 miles an hour. Absolutely middle and leg. He is playing really very fairly indeed. And here comes Priaulx, really getting the slingshot as they came up through Blanchimont, all over the back of Dirk Müller, under braking. Still, he just can't get alongside. So hard to do that there. But Jörg Müller into the back of Farfus again. Farfus perhaps a little later on the brakes, or a little earlier rather on the brakes than the BMW needs to be. Maybe the front drive car is starting to run out of tyres. Don't forget, the Schnitzer BMWs only did 2 qualifying laps compared to the 7 or 8 of the rivals around them. And around here, that's a lot of extra kilometres on the set of tyres that you have to use in the race, and that might be having a slight disadvantage for the Alphas. But at the moment, like Andy Priaulx, Jürg Müller can't use his grip advantage if he has got one. He just can't get level or inside. He can't get tucked inside Farfus.
And you can see here when they come out onto this straight now, where's the BMW? It's right behind Alfa Romeo in fourth place, and he'll be looking to try and get himself past one way or another. You can see Andy Priaulx is thinking about doing exactly the same thing, trying to get past Dirk at the front here, but he is all over the back of Dirk. He wants to win this race. He doesn't want Dirk to beat him. Dirk's ahead of him in the championship. He needs to pull championship points back away from Dirk, and he will not be sitting there thinking, I will take second place, it's a good points haul. He will want that first place. He doesn't want second place. For everybody else in this race to have a good second place will be a good points haul, to be very happy with it. It won't be good for Andy. Andy knows he needs to start beating this BMW that's in front of him, the works car of Dirk Müller. That's the one that's leading the championship, and that's the one that Andy needs to beat more than anybody else in this race. And these two now have stretched their lead away a little bit. Round Priaulx on the go now. Such a fantastic corner this when you come out of there, just so quick. They've moved back the barrier there. It used to be quite close to the edge of the circuit. Now you can move back lots and lots of runoff space. But here you can see the Alfa Romeo still fighting with Jürg Müller a little bit further back, and he is very much the meat in the Alfa Romeo sandwich around here, and still hanging on to the back of all of them. There is James Thompson doing very well with that car of his.
Well, not only is the World Championship status of this series improved the performance, the quality and depth of the drivers and the cars, but I do think that the driving standards are definitely rising all the way through. We're being told that an accident between car number 2 and 32, I think that means there'll be 42 then, Tarquini and Müller being under investigation. But as I said, that is absolutely, in my mind, nothing more than pure racing contact, and certainly Tarquini could not be adjudged to have deliberately thumped Müller into a spin. If he'd been meaning to spin Müller, Müller would have been spun there at Eau Rouge. I'm at La Source. You're kidding me that you can't on purpose spin somebody? It's the one place on this racetrack where it's almost impossible not to spin somebody if you hit them. Checkered flag is out then. Dirk Müller the winner, but Jürg Müller now, that is definitely something that may well come under scrutiny. Jürg Müller takes third despite Augusto Farfus pushing him physically all the way sideways and into the pit wall. Now we need to see the replay of that right rear rubbing very hard indeed, and that may be from contact at the back. I tell you what, Charlie Lamb knows his technical rule book, but he knows his sporting rule book as well. Jürg Müller gets third, but if he is penalised, where will that leave Augusto Farfus? Dirk Müller the winner either way, so it's a 1-3 for Schnitzer, and second place is Priaulx. Inside comes Jürg. Okay, well, quite clearly Farfus is not heading straight down the hill. Jürg did throw himself inside, but the door was open and the possibility was there. Now, what worries me is why there's so much smoke pouring off the right rear. Where did that come from?
After a very eventful end to round 11, Dirk Müller takes the victory. But that crazy manoeuvre from Farfus meant he was disqualified. Andy Priaulx came a very creditable second, and he seemed happy with his performance.
It's a tough race. I'm a bit disappointed that I didn't manage to benefit from Dirk's slipstream, but I'm very happy with the car and the handling, the performance of the car, and you know, it's a good points finish in the bag, and we'll keep going. Still a long way to go for the championship.
Right, let's remind ourselves of the differing weight penalties. The better cars carry more weight to try and level the playing field. 3 examples being Andy Priaulx, who takes on 40 kilograms, Robert Huff escapes with no penalty, and championship leader Dirk Müller also takes on 40 kilograms. Right, time for round 12 now. Remember, the top 8 in race 1 are reversed on the grid for race 2.
Fabrizio Giovanardi on pole from Antonio Garcia. The grid is ready to go for round 12 of the World Touring Car Championship. Watch James Thompson in third position on the wet weather tyres. Not enough of an advantage, but Andy Priaulx is trying to go through with the Schnitzer boys. That's Jürg Müller. He gets attacked from Dirk Müller. And dear oh dear, this is Rickard Rydell's headlamp view, and already it's all broken loose down into Eau Rouge. That's Augusto Farfus is off. Priaulx is off. I think that's probably Dirk Müller who was alongside him. And Seat heads the queue. Peter Terting is at the front of the queue, behind Jürg Müller and Antonio Garcia and 3 of the Alfa Romeos. Thompson's wet weather tyres not enough to give an advantage at the start. It's Giovanardi, Tarquini, Garcia, Thompson, and then 42, which is Jürg Müller. So Dirk Müller and Priaulx, the championship top 2, are down the grid and in big trouble. Jürg Müller looking to make a move as early as he can to get past James Thompson. Thompson, don't forget, on full wet weather tyres. Jürg Müller on full slicks, and Thompson needs the gravel chopper, and there goes Tarquini. Tarquini's gone off. Slicks have not got quite enough grip. I don't know how Giovanardi managed to stay on. Giovanardi with a big lead over a sliding Garcia and the wildly sliding Jürg Müller. Mark Enrici is off. Rickard Rydell's got off on his wet weather tyres as well. And there was another Seat in trouble there, rejoining, that might have been Peter Terting or Jason Plato. They were both around Rydell. This is going to be a very dramatic race one way or another, but it might be already surrendering to Fabrizio Giovanardi. Antonio Garcia second, Jürg Müller third, Gabriele Tarquini in fourth. No, in fifth, as James Thompson's up to 4th place, but still the top 5 easing away from the best of the Seats. And that, I think, is probably still going to be Peter Terting. We'll catch up with it when the camera gives us a decent enough view to actually get it. It is Peter Terting. Ben, here come the Chevys. David Leslie, we joked this morning about the Mallock team praying to the rain gods, but look how well the Chevys are working when it's wet.
Yes, it just makes such a difference. It's such an equaliser, the wet weather, and they'll be thoroughly enjoying their handling. They know they've got a car that handles well. They just need a few more horsepower out of that engine to try and get on equal terms with Alfa Romeos, the BMWs. But up front here is Alfa Romeos. The BMW's now slipped back behind the 2 Alfa Romeos, and it's slipping back again. It's obviously got a problem. And I've got a very big problem indeed. So BMW's on top in race 1, race 2, they are out of it. And front suspension bent there on Andy Priaulx's car. So Dirk Müller and Andy Priaulx look as though they're both out of this race on the first corner.
Well, that was Jürg Müller who was slowing as well there. He was the only one of the top 3 BMWs in the lead group, and he has slowed dramatically. Antonio Garcia now, BMW's sole representative to prevent an Alfa Romeo red wash, and you would never have predicted that from race 1. But on a wet start, as you head down into Eau Rouge, as the driver said, you just throw the dice and hope that it doesn't all break loose in front of you. Well, it couldn't break loose in front of Fabrizio Giovanardi since he was on pole, and he got through. Giovanardi and Garcia from the front row. And then in third place is Gabriele Tarquini. Don't know how he got past James Thompson, because we saw Tarquini quite clearly going off into the gravel. He has got back past Tomo, though. Thompson on wet weather tyres, and obviously there is still enough grip for the slicks to have a slight advantage, enough places to stay in front of a wet shod car. You would think here, in braking on the wet, that Thompson might have had an advantage, but presumably too far back. Let's have a look at the start. Dirk Müller comes around Andy Priaulx, gets turned round into Farfus. That's Dirk Müller going off there. Does he get hit? Yeah, oh, missed by Colciago. Colciago's life flashed in front of him with Priaulx. Off!
And Priaulx is sandwiched in between a BMW and Alfa Romeo there.
Absolutely, no wonder his suspension is completely cream-crackered, because he was hit from both sides. Now they're going to try and do something, because in these conditions, who can tell what's going to happen in the remaining 6.5 laps of Spa-Francorchamps? There could be a plague of frogs and locusts before the end of the race. Giovanardi, though, 32 points out of the previous 40 before coming here were his. And look, where's Thompson gone?
Thompson gone? He's obviously had an off somewhere. He's been trying too hard, trying to get off a place, and he's gone off somewhere. So Terting, remember, he is also on wet tyres in the Seat. So now in 4th and 5th place, these 2 guys both on wet tyres. And they really need to try and make hay at the beginning of this race, because towards the end of the race, when it starts to dry out, they're going to struggle. So, and the wet tyres, it should have been up front already.
If it starts to dry out, it could just as easily rain again as it did before the start of the race. But you're right, they don't have enough of an advantage, though. It is a surprise when you see so much spray and so much water clearly on the track that a wet weather tyre is not clearing off into the middle distance, but it is not. Great control being shown by Giovanardi and Garcia, but their tyre temperatures must be a bit of a worry, frankly. Tarquini in third place, equally on dry weather tyres. Alain Menu started 15th, by the way, 7th at the end of lap 1. Not all of it purely on performance, but certainly some of it is. And behind him, the 22 car Nicola Larini. In front of them, Stefano D'Aste, the top independent in his BMW. So certainly rear-wheel drive counting for something in the rain. And that is a little still from the onboard camera of Alain Menu.
And now you see D'Aste, the leading independent. And he really is going very well in that car. It's, I don't know whether it's this circuit that's good for him or whatever it is, but here's Thompson in, and it looks like they're going to have a quick tyre change. You've got to remember that these wheels have got 5 nuts on them, so they've got the air guns on, pulling off all the little nuts. Off come the wet weather tyre, on go the slicks. It obviously is drying out there. It hasn't rained again. They've taken the decision to come in and change. They've got 2 people on each wheel to try and change those wheels and all those 5 nuts as quickly as possible. And certainly that's one side done. They're just waiting on somebody on the other side. The rear tyres take a little bit longer. That's finished. Down goes the air jacks, off he goes. He's lost such a lot of time. I think that on such a short race, 8 laps, he'd have been better off staying out there on his wets than coming in and putting on slicks, because he's not going to gain all those 20-odd places back to try and be in the top 10 to get a points finish.
No, even 8 laps of here, or 6 laps as it was of here, 6 laps of Silverstone or Magny-Cours, you've got no chance, you just have to live with it. But even 6 laps of this track, very little chance at all. He's dropped right down at the tail of the field. So Giovanardi, Garcia, Tarquini, and look how close Tarquini is to Garcia. On board with the number 7 car of Augusto Farfus Jr., battling with a Chevy, trying to find his way back up the order. That's Rob Huff in front of him, who didn't score in race 1. So that's how far down the order Farfus went, because Huff started from the back of the grid.
And you can see how wet it is, and the car's moving around on those slick tyres. And you've seen there the onboard camera of the background there, Farfus with Huff in front of him, just seeing how much the cars with the slick tyres are moving around on this damp stroke wet circuit. And there's certainly, you know, you look for the dry patches. In one lap you'll see where it's drying quickest, and you'll try and stick to those dry patches. And it looked as though somebody was trying very hard there, and it's extremely tight as it's going round here. But we're hearing that more of the drivers are thinking about coming in to change from wets to slicks, but to do that it takes such a long time to change these wheels and tyres when you've got 5 nuts per wheel.
So whilst the wet conditions in Belgium give the drivers cause for concern, we'll take a short break. See you soon. It's a wet one here in Spa for the WTCC round 12. We're halfway through the 8 laps. Let's see what happens.
Now then, this is Thomas Klenker in the number 14 Ford, who's just been hit with a stop-go penalty for jumping the start. Oh, getting tagged across the chicane and into Jordi Gené. Now, Klenker, unfortunately, was then looking quite competitive. He was in the battle with Gené and the Seat, and I'm not sure exactly which of the Seats that was.
It was Gené. He's run into Gené as he came across the entrance chicane there.
No, I'm not sure which one tagged him from behind that started the spin. Yes, it was not fortunate for either of them. Those cars still there at the bus stop. That has just happened. Well, there goes that stop-go penalty necessity. Then Dirk Muller in 4th after being spun round at the start very dramatically. At the end of lap 5 then, safety car is out, and that will give them at least 1 lap and hopefully 2 to race from the restart. Giovanardi, Garcia, Tarquini, Muller. Those are the names of interest that will be up behind the safety car on what is now a bone-dry start-finish line. Well, Hannay and Klenker both out of the car, David, and that's the important thing. Hannay abandoned ship so quickly, though, that the wipers are still on. It did look like the door bar had a fairly big bend put into it there.
He certainly it was a big impact as the one car came across the road and into the other one. So that's the mess that they have to clear up. Here's some drivers coming into the pits. I can only think that they're going to do a tyre change during the safety car, get themselves back out. Here we are. This is what happened. What was it that tagged him? It was a Chevy.
A Chevy
that tagged him, and unfortunately it was straight into the front of, and that's the front of both of those cars gone. So I'm not sure whose Chevy it was, number 22.
Rob, no, it's not. That is Nicola Larini.
Larini, and look at that. That was just so unlucky for Chenet as he was going round there. But now they're going to pick up all those bits and pieces, shift those two cars, hopefully as quickly as possible, so they can get the race underway.
And of course everybody's saying, well, why couldn't he stop? I mean, he'd gone off the track, he was on the grass, why didn't he stop? Because it's wet grass. There was a couple of heavy thunderstorms in the last couple of days. It's like sheet ice. There is no friction coefficient whatsoever. He probably actually accelerated once he got onto the grass compared to how much slower he'd have been going if it had been tarmac all the way across.
Certainly that's the feeling you get when you go onto the grass and you're in wet conditions like that. You do feel as though somebody's suddenly planted the foot into the throttle, and you feel that you're suddenly accelerating. Because initially you were, when you're spinning on the tarmac, you're losing a little bit of pace. The minute you touch the grass, you lose no pace whatsoever. You feel as though you still should have some retardation, but there isn't. And it's as though you're accelerating straight over there. He's got no control over the car whatsoever. He was just simply a passenger, and unfortunately when it came off that grass, it was straight into a car already on the tarmac, halfway through a different corner altogether. And there's two cars very, very heavily damaged, and both those cars will take a lot of repairing before they come out the next time.
Certainly will. Now then, everybody forming behind the safety car, and you certainly now would be feeling fairly happy if you put money on Dirk Muller to get a race 2 podium, wouldn't you? I think he's got a very good chance. There is Hannay, and Thomas Klenker also behind the barriers. His car, well, it's been a bad weekend for the Ford team, and I'm sure they will certainly be hoping for better fortunes next time out. Hannay's car hasn't even been moved, so it will be 2 laps behind the safety car, and I think that will give them a single lap, if anything. Look at that, it's just demolished that left-hand front corner. Now, when are we seeing the next... When is the Toledo coming out? Is Spa the last race for the current Toledo Sport?
I think there's one more race after this. I think it's Ossersleben. And then the new car comes after that. It may be that because that car's been so badly damaged, one car might come out at one race early. I'm not sure, but that's the Chevrolet guys looking at their screens to see what's going on. They've got a points position just now in they're 6th on the road, and they want to try to hang on to that, but right behind them is what looks like Tom Cornell in his car, and right behind that is Farfus Jr. in his car, and those are 2 obviously very quick cars, and they'll be wanting to try and demote that Chevrolet out of the points and put themselves into it. And you can see the Chevrolet guys there looking at the screens, watching to see what's going on. They would very much like to keep that position. And of course just in front of Menu is D'Asti with the independent BMW. I have to say he's driven a very, very good race indeed here at Spa on this second race. He's got himself from the middle of the grid, kept himself out of trouble, and got himself right up in there. But here they are coming around now towards the end of the lap. They got up through Blanchimont, and see how quickly now it's going to be. There will be another lap. I thought they're going to drag that car away the same as they did the other one, but they're going to put it on top of a transporter, and that unfortunately is going to take time. In the background you'll see now the pace car coming round the corner with the line of cars behind it. I was rather hoping by the time they got there that they would have the second car shifted, and that would allow everyone a couple of laps racing instead of 1 lap racing.
Now, when you see them again on that long shot, there's this huge tarmac area in the foreground here inside the bus stop, and there's this one little patch of grass to the driver's left as they come through it now. Surely it's better to have that concreted over like the runoff area is beside it and painted green, so that at least if somebody has a problem going into the bus stop, there is the chance of them slowing down. Incidents like this just beg for it. Well, this is Larini getting inside Klenker, and if he's on the tarmac here, but if when he comes onto the grass, he was still on tarmac. No matter how wet, it would still slow him down a little bit more than that grass does, because there's no more loss of speed from when he left the tarmac to when he comes in here. And Colciago dodged that one by about a foot, didn't he? He could have been so easily hit in the middle of the car. Behind the safety car, round 12 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship at Spa. Started in mixed conditions, and a big impact between the Chevy of Nicola Larini and the Ford of Thomas Klenker. Put Klenker off the road, and he skated unabated into the car of Hori Kane. It's taken 2 laps behind the safety car in this long, slow lap to sort everything out. And Giovanardi trying to keep his tyre warm again, almost losing it as he did on the warm-up lap. Really throwing the Alfa Romeo around. Giovanardi 8th in race 1. David Leslie pole here has been unchallenged from the start of the race, but with the safety car bunching everybody up, and a one-shot chance, 1 lap of racing as they go green this time. He may not hold on to that.
That's the big difference. He's really trying hard to put heat into those tyres. Remember, the circuit isn't dry all the way around. There is a dry line now for all those guys on slick tyres to make it work. Those that were on wets, majority have been in and changed and come back out. We thought it was a mistake. Maybe it wasn't such a big mistake, because now they've all been closed up because of the safety car. So some of those guys will have got away with it. But even Thompson, who came in, was first to come in, is still down in 13th place. And he's got a few more places to gain before he can get any points whatsoever. But these guys at the front, they'll be really working hard to put heat in the tyres. They need to get out there. They've got 1 lap, and it is just a flat-out blind. They've got to take big risks on this 1 lap, because everyone's queued up behind them. Giovanardi will be wanting to make a very good start, so when the pace car pulls in, he'll be nailing it just before the apex of the La Source hairpin to try and get out of that hairpin, down the hill, up through La Source, through Eau Rouge, and onto the Kemmel Straight as quickly as possible to try and put some space between him and the rest. He had a nice big lead before. All that's gone. All that effort is now gone, and he's got to start from scratch.
Yeah, but first he'll be trying to catch Antonio Garcia off the throttle by braking, and then trying to really stand on the brakes to get Garcia off the gas just as he nails it. Monica Sips closest to the camera. There's the Schnitzer garage. This race weekend has so far been all about Alfa Romeo versus Schnitzer BMW and the BMW Team UK squad, but at the moment Antonio Garcia, who was 7th in race 1, lined up alongside Giovanardi, is the best placed challenger for Fabrizio. But come on guys, you're on the Formula 1 pit lane, grid rather. Stop weaving and start concentrating. Antonio, get on with it. You've got to pass Giovanardi the moment you get by Eau Rouge up the hill, otherwise you have no chance at all.
Garcia's taken a very wide line into that corner to try and get out. He knows that when they come out of the corner they're going to be flat out. He just wasn't quite close enough, and Giovanardi's got that 1-2 car lengths gap that he needs as he comes down this hill into Eau Rouge, and up there he goes. It is still damp. You see the cars moving around, but one by one they're coming down there. Further back there is someone trying to overtake a manoeuvre, and off they go up the big long straight, using that power to get up the hill there.
Tarquini made the best job of the restart. Dirk Muller wasn't quite on it enough either. Tarquini coming around the outside of Antonio Garcia. He will take second, and he will try and take the lead as well from Giovanardi if he can. Now we're getting into the wet section of the track. Q front-wheel drive racing cars looking like Mark II escorts. Stefano Daste goes straight across the Michael Schumacher line and doesn't lose or gain, so he stays in 5th position where he was. Alain Menu has been passed by Tom Coronel and by Augusto Farfus as well now in the Chevy. Farfus was alongside him. Will he get by cleanly, or will Menu be in for another big repair bill? Giovanardi, Tarquini, and here comes Dirk Muller now. He's got to get past Antonio Garcia. The Spaniard is not going to be a feature in the championship battle. Oh, and somebody's been turned around, and that's another BMW, and I think that'll be Jörg Muller. That's the way his weekend is going. It looked white, and I think that was probably Jörg Muller getting turned around. He was just ahead of James Thompson at the restart, and Giuseppe Ciro. And Tarquini with the lights on, 2 red cars with Italian flags on the roof. They'll have to forgive us for getting them wrong occasionally, but it's Giovanardi, Tarquini, Garcia and Dirk Muller. Can he do anything at the bus stop? because it's not going to be much before then that he gets a chance.
And I think that Dirk knows that he's had sort of 9 lives already in this race. He knows that none of his compatriots racing for the championship are anywhere near him, and if he was to finish 4th, he would still extend his lead in the championship. He really needs to get to the end of this race. If he can overtake, fine, but certainly not take any risks. This is a championship winning position. He doesn't need to take a risk. He doesn't need to end up in the barrier. He doesn't need to end up with a bent car before the end of the race. If he can have the position, thank you very much, he'll take it, I'm sure. But,
here he comes, here he comes, here he comes!
A bit close here, all 3.
Garcia turns Tarquini around. Who will come out of this? Giovanardi, no, Tarquini holds on to it. Stefano D'Aste goes straight through and may win it, but crucially, Dirk Muller gets going. Stefano D'Aste will win it, and that was not. I think he should keep that, because he just avoided the huge melee in front of him. He could have stopped dead and let everybody through, but nobody else was going to do that. Stefano D'Aste will record the first independent trophy win of his career, and overall ahead of Giovanardi. 3rd will be Coronel, 4th will be Farfus, 5th Dirk Muller, 6th position has got to be Alain Menu. There comes Tomo ahead of Garcia, of Mark Enrici, of possibly Ricard Rydell, Rob Huff, and a whole bunch of the rest of them. Tarquini and Giovanardi, didn't see them. Didn't see either of them. I thought Tarquini, as he came straight on, might have made it. Garcia taps Tarquini, taps, well, all 3 of them go. Now, watch Tarquini. I thought he might have just collected it. No, he was going too far straight on. Giovanardi went straight on into the barriers, both of them. And Monica can't believe what she's seeing. Look at it on the monitors there. No, no, no. They both go straight into the barriers from here. Look, here they're under control, but it's that last slide. Tarquini can't hold it. What happened to Giovanardi? Why did he not make it round?
He looked as though he got slow enough to get it stopped. I'm not sure, but we go and see what happens on the outside.
But Dirk Muller, broken rear, wheel rim and everything. No wonder he got through. But dang nammit, from 17th on the grid to win. Yes, Giovanardi, I'd just forgotten that we'd seen him across the line. From 17th to a win. I hope, you know, I really hope they don't do anything stupid and say you can't have that because you didn't go through the chicane. The win was given to Giovanardi. The stewards need to have their brains tested. Stefano D'Aste won that one in the only way he could have done. He was dropped to 2nd, still won the Independence Trophy, though. The championship now sees Giovanardi reinstated ahead of Andy Priaulx, 7 behind Dirk Muller. Gabriele Tarquini and Antonio Garcia in 4th, equal dropping back, and again Alfa Romeo scoring strongly because they effectively get the top 2 manufacturers' hauls of points, because 2 of the top 3 were Independence Trophy winners.
Well, that's it from the WTCC rounds 11 and 12. Spa in Belgium has certainly been eventful. Next time we move across the border to the Oschersleben circuit in northern Germany. We're over halfway through the season now. Make sure you join us again. Goodbye.